वो रावण वाला बनाया ना, इसने बनाया। आना तो चाहिए मतलब क्या है।
अब नहीं नहीं गैरेज, हाँ गैरेज बंद है, और बंद नहीं है।
Hi everyone, can you all hear me? And just type in a yes. Great. Cool. So the day one, right? So we have been joined by Bharat, and Bharat is going to lead this course, and he will be helping you out from beginning till the end in everything in all the topics. Many of you might already know Bharat, so I will just quickly introduce him. So Bharat happens to be he graduated from IIT BHU in computer science, and he joined Tower Research. So he was there at Tower Research Capital for quite some time, and after that he together co-founded with us Programming Pathshala. So he also takes look at the entire tech and product division of Programming Pathshala, and has a lot of practical experience, not just theoretical one, in terms of building the web applications and maintaining them, looking at scalability factor, maintainability, and all such sorts of things. So make sure that you guys make very good use of his time, and those of you who can keep your videos turned on throughout, you can even do that. At times, whenever you are asked to unmute yourself and talk, feel free to do that. Okay. And make best use of these class hours. Okay. Great. So I wish you guys all the good luck for the beginning, and let us get it started. So Bharat, you can begin.
Okay, thank you. Uh, Hi everyone, am I audible? To you all? Can you type in a quick yes? Okay. Uh, Great. Just to add on that, these live classes are going to be majorly those practical centric, right? Which Vivek talked about. So theoretical knowledge mostly will be as part of pre-read or stuff like that. These classes are going to be majorly around practical stuff and how do you break down a website and try to build it right. That is what we are going to start today. Before we start, may I know from everyone, how many of you were able to complete the 5-6 videos that are there on the dashboard, on the classroom, uh, or know about HTML? That's also okay. Like major tags of HTML. Okay, many people are saying yes. Great, great. Uh, yeah, basically it is going to be a little important that you have covered those videos because otherwise you might not understand basic stuff like what is a tag, what is an attribute, and stuff like that, right? So I think we can begin. Let me do a quick screen share. Okay. I hope everyone is able to see the screen, white screen. Can I get a quick yes? If you are able to. Voice is breaking. Okay. Is my voice breaking or is it fine? Little bit. Okay. I'll check my internet connection quickly. I hope it would be better now. Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, what we are going to do is we are going to discuss how to practically go about building a huge website, right? So I'll just try to list down the different steps, and we'll see today in practicality that how do you build a static page, right? So those of you who have covered the videos must know that the things that we have covered so far, which is your HTML and CSS, they mostly help you build a static website, right? So till we don't introduce our JavaScript part, we are actually just building a page which is just looking as it is, right? With very minor here and there options to put input, options to do some user activity, right? But mostly a static page which is looking similar. Okay. Yeah. So what are the steps in building this static page, right? Many people think that front end relates very uh, relates very much to design aspect, right? How many of you think this already? That building a front end means you need to know design, like how should it look, What are the colors you should use? What are the color combinations? How many of you think that front end involves all of this? Others, what do you think? No also is the right answer in this case, if you don't think so. Okay, many of you don't, some of you do. Okay, so let me tell you, the two jobs, which is front end designer and front end developer, are completely different, right? So a front end designer, which is going to be there in any org, essentially creates a design, Figma design. I will show the Figma today, how it looks and how you can use it. But essentially it gives a Figma design to the front end developer, and that developer will just go ahead and build it. He does not need to care about the color combinations. He does not need to care about where to put different stuff. All that is taken care by this designer. You just need to copy paste his design and copy paste the colors and just put it there, right? That does not mean that front end does not involve any brain. So one major part where front end involves brain is JavaScript. But even in the HTML CSS part, a very important thing that you need to do very well is to be able to do layout, right? And this is going to be our primary focus today, that how do you lay out different things that are there on the dashboard. Okay. So for that, the first step that we need to do is divide our website into parts, right? So what I'll do is I'll quickly share the sample website that we have been using already. Okay, so those of you have already watched the videos, right? Must have seen this, right? We are trying to build some portions of it, right, in those videos. So if you look at this website and you have to build it, it might seem like a huge task. There are so many things happening and so many stuff out there, right? So first of all, let's try to break it down and see what are the different portions that need to be clubbed together, right? So what we essentially first do is break the website into parts, right? And we call those parts by a special tag called as div. So div. I'll just mention it in the chat. And we use div tags to actually divide our website. Okay. So first, let's look at this particular page. Okay, how to divide the website? That's also another interesting question. So what we look at is if we want to first divide it horizontally or vertically, right? So for an example, let's say I talk about let's say I'm talking about just this portion. What do you think? Should I divide it into 2 parts or 3 parts horizontally or vertically? How do you look its structure as, right? Anyone? 2 vertical parts. Can everyone see that like this way? This is one part. This is second part. Yes or no? That is how this website should be divided ideally. Is everyone able to see this? Yes or no? Okay. So this only tells us that we need to divide this particular div, right? Actually, this is not the complete website. If you if you try to scroll up, we'll see that there is a nav bar as well, which shows Prime Patshala and all. But essentially, this portion should be divided into 2 separate portions, one on the left, one on the right. Okay. Let's look at the left portion again. How do you think it should be divided? Should I divide it horizontally or should I divide it vertically? What do you think? Everyone? Horizontally? Okay. How many parts do you see for this left portion? How should we divide it? 3, 2, 4. Okay. Yeah. So it is subjective, right? There is no fixed thing that you can pick here, right? Some people might say that, okay, we have photo 1, this 2, this thing 3, this thing 4, this thing 5, right? Some people might say 5. Some people might combine these two, right? Some people might even combine these portions together, right? So it's not something which is exactly fixed, but one thing that you can look for is their alignment. So as an example, if you look at this first portion, these two, can I say both of them are center aligned? Yes or no? They are centered, right? So ideally putting them together should not matter, because what I want to do, I want to basically make them center aligned, both of them, right? So if I even put them in one division having two things, an image and a name, then I can just say center line and both of them will be at center. Is everyone able to understand this idea? Yes or no? So what I can do is, for this div, I can actually divide into just two parts. This one, which is center aligned, and then this complete one, which is all left aligned. Is everyone able to see that? Yes or no, everyone? Just two parts. Once again, sure, I'll repeat it. So what I'm saying is, we had this complete left part. First of all, everything is one below the other, so it's horizontal. Yes or no, Saurav? It's one below the other, so we have to divide it horizontally. Now I'm saying, how many parts should I divide it into, right? Some people are saying 3, some people are saying 4, some people are saying 5. What I am saying is, if we look at it, the first two are center aligned, right? So for example, if this is the complete portion of the page, these two lines, then they are at the center and the other ones are left aligned. Can you see the difference? Yes or no? So based on this property, we can divide into two divisions. First having this photo and this name, and second having all of the other ones. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Right? Then the below one, obviously the above one will divide into two parts again. Photo alag, like photo separately and the name separately. Similarly, the below one also will divide into now three parts: about, contact, and on the web. Further, we can split it again. Like even the smallest division, for example, the smallest division will be this, the LinkedIn icon and the following link, right? So even this will be divided further into two vertical portions, right? Can you see how it is structured, one below the other, one below the other, like dividing it from the start and trying to go down to the single elements? Yes or no? Okay. Just take a moment, try to observe this. Is div based on alignment a code practice, or is it like a rule of thumb? There is no rule of thumb here. Even if you divide it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separately, everything separately, it's correct. It's going to be fine. But what we go for is an intuition as a developer that, okay, about me section will generally have similar theme, right? Okay, about word could be probably a little bold, but remaining stuff, like, so if everything goes right aligned, I'll have to align both of them to the right. Am I making sense with it? Yes or no? So it's like a developer intuition that these should stay together because they are essentially talking about the same stuff. And if some design changes in one, the other will also change, right? So it's more like an intuition rather than being a rule of thumb. Okay. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the right side. What do you feel about the right side? Okay, using lots of div is a bad practice. It depends. So if you are going with vanilla, so because we have not covered JavaScript, there is no real answer to this, right? But yeah, obviously, if there are a lot of divs, if there is a lot of division, then it makes the website a little bulky, right? That's there. But simultaneously keeping the code clean and thinking about components, then using div is a better practice. Is it okay, Ambuj? Like these days, most of the websites are very fast. Like if you write it in any recent frameworks like React, etc., it won't really matter. But generally saying less divs versus more divs, less divs would be preferred because essentially there are lesser components and it will be like slightly better, right? As in terms of speed. Is it okay? Yeah, great. So as I was talking about the right side, I think here we'll have to go contextually. So education could be one. Similarly, work experience could be one. Similarly, personal projects could be one, and so on and so forth, right? Is it okay with everyone? The idea? Yes or no? Will you be able to take any website and try to split it out into divs, right? Okay, great. So what I have done is I have tried to basically do exactly this with this website, took some portions of it and created a simple web page. So we'll quickly look onto the code for that. And then we'll go ahead and try to do our CSS over it, right? So let me share the screen from here. Okay. So I'll first show the website. Or maybe code is fine. So basically, I first divided into navbar. Actually, in the image that I shared, navbar was not clearly visible. But actually, if you, by the way, is my new screen visible, right, of the laptop to everyone? It is, right? Okay, great. Yeah, that is the code screen, right? So if you look at the navbar, I'll again probably share it. The Chrome. Yeah, so there was a navbar at the top also, right? Can everyone see this? Which was hidden when I shared it on my iPad. So I have divided it like this. I have first the navbar. Now navbar has two portions, one left portion, second right portion. Then left portion is further divided into logo and your name. Then right portion is again divided into 3 parts, 4 parts, and so on and so forth. Similarly, I have written this and divided into divs, right? So let's quickly look at the code, keeping this image in mind. So yeah, first I've made a div. I'll talk about what ID is in a second, but just forget about ID for now. But basically, I've written a navbar div. I've given it a name, you can say, which has two things: the logo portion, which was on the left, and the profile part, which was on the right. Is everyone able to understand this? Yes or no? There were two things, right? On the left side, there was Prime Patshala and logo and name. On the right side, it was 3 other things, right? So that is what I've written. And further, this div has your image, which is the logo image, and your name, Prime Patshala. Similarly, the profile part also has the image and my name. I've skipped some of the portions. If you want, you can include them as well. Then below the navbar, there was the whole about me section. So basically, I first divided the page into 2 parts, navbar and the about me section, which was below this complete thing. Then inside the about me, there were 2 portions, left and right. So that is exactly what I have done here. So I have the picture, which was on the left. I have the full name, and then about me and its details, and then the horizontal divider, and so on and so forth, right? So I hope everyone will be able to write something like this, which using divs, right? I think I've messed it up a little bit, some divs here and there, but yeah, you can code it yourself, right? Basically, whatever codes we have discussed so far in the 6 videos, you just need to copy paste them, combine it as form of divs, and try to work it out. Okay. By default, value of div is vertical. By default, value of div is vertical. I think yes, yeah. It stacks one below the other, right? Okay. So moving on. So now let's talk about ID and why do we require ID? Okay. So let's say we have just grouped our page into divs. Now the next thing that we need to do is actually align them like they look, right? So for example, the navbar should be left to right, like all the objects in it should be left to right and not one below the other. Let's quickly look at the page also and see how it looks right now. So if you look at the components of the navbar, logo, name, the notification bell, the other name, they should be like one after the other. Like logo Prime Pathshala, this should be here and this should be here, right? But right now they are one below the other because I have not specified that they should look like that. Okay. Is that making sense to everyone? Yes or no? Everyone with me? Where is the div that divides the page into two parts? I think, Aniket, I have messed that up a little bit. I'll just correct it while we go through the remaining code. Is it okay? I think I forgot to make those two divisions. Like I might have shifted things here and there. Okay. We'll correct it as we go ahead with it. Yeah, so as I was saying, but they don't look exactly like that. So next step that we need to do is actually align them like they look. Okay. So for that, what we do is we use CSS. Okay. So CSS essentially styles your page, right? How many of you are already aware of what CSS does? Can I get a yes or no if you are not? Okay. No, no worries, no worries. So CSS full form is cascading style sheets, right? And the idea of cascading style sheets is that they help you make the page look beautiful, right? So your colors, your layout, your uh, uh, spacing between the components, all that is governed by CSS. Is that okay? What is the main job of CSS? Okay. So what we have done is we have created this CSS file, right? We have created this .css file, and I have linked it with this page. So I have said in the header, link this CSS file, which is profile page complete.css, as a style sheet with this page. Is this statement making sense to everyone? Yes or no? Everyone? We'll see how we use this CSS. Okay, someone is saying no. Sort of what does not make sense. So I've created a .css file. Forget about what is written inside it. Anyways, it's all commented out. But I have created a simple CSS file, and I've said that I need to link this CSS file. So href tells me location of that CSS file, and its type is a style sheet. So it will govern the style of this page. Does this make sense now? Okay. So it's a way of linking this HTML with this CSS, right? Till now, what we have been doing is we are copying this link, right? Do you remember how do we showcase HTML pages? We just copy this path, paste it on the browser, and it opens the HTML page, right? But if we want to include certain styles with it, then we need to link it with the HTML page, right? Okay. Can I give another name of style sheet? Yes. Yes, you can give any name here. Just if you want, I will rename this. And just change it abc.css. That does not make any difference, right? It will still include that. Is it okay? The name does not really matter. Okay. Moving on. So if you remember, I talked that we have given a name to every div, right? So we have used ID here. So ID tells us that this particular division, this complete division, is going to govern, like if I try to put any style to this, let's say I want all the elements here to be center aligned, then I would need to go to this navbar and tell that everything inside navbar should be center aligned. And that can be done like this. So in the CSS file, I will say, this is basically all commented out. You don't need to worry about it. So for navbar, so hash is a special keyword that we use for IDs. So whatever is in navbar div, okay, I'll just comment everything like this also. What you do is you align the items to the center. Does this make sense? Okay. Right. Right now, it will not change anything because CSS is a strange thing. I have just written an example for this. We'll see how actually we can align it. This will not work, but I'm saying this as an example that we'll just go to that ID and we'll try to put some properties to it. Okay, cool. We'll see what kind of properties do we go for. First, we'll start with the layout. Rel equal to style sheet is mandatory, that cannot change. Yes. So there can be different things that can be linked with the HTML page, right? So it could be a JavaScript page also, it could be a CSS page also. So when you are linking a CSS page, you need to put this, that its type is style sheet. Okay. Type equal to text CSS also you can put. Those are two options, right? REL means relation, I think. So relation with the page, relation of the page with this is a style sheet. Okay. Cool. So as I was going ahead with this CSS page, so now we need to do layout, right? So for that, there is a special category of layout that we are going to learn, which is called as a flexbox. How many of you are aware of flexbox? Yes, no? Don't know about it? Okay. Maximum people are not. So there are just two different kinds of layouts which are famous these days. One of which being flexbox, other being grid, right? These are, I think, the two most famous ones. Flexbox is a little older, grid is a little newer, but most of the times flexbox is used still in the companies, right? So flexbox says that what you need to do is, what you can do is basically you can make every division of yours as a flex. Okay. So what you do is you type display flex. Okay. Now that division will act like a flexbox, right? And flexbox has a special properties that we are going to discuss next. Okay. So I'll talk about the properties next. But step being that in that division, you put display flex, display colon flex. That makes it a flexbox. And now you can use the different flex properties in it. Is this making sense? Yes or no? What does display flex do? Everyone? Okay. So first important property of flexbox is flex direction, which tells you should I arrange all the elements in the form of row or column? So there are two options here that you can put: flex direction row, flex direction column. Sir, could you please repeat flexbox once again? Sure. So flexbox is a way of helping with the layout. Generally, there are two different ways which we can use: flexbox and grid, which are in trend these days, out of which we are going to cover flexbox. So first step to work with flexbox layout is that to your div, you say display flex. Now this div, this nav bar, basically this portion will act like a flexbox, and you can use certain flexbox properties with it. Okay. So first property that I'm saying is flex direction. That is, you tell whether you want to arrange all the elements in the form of a row or in the form of a column. So because it's nav bar, we wanted everything to become side by side. I have written flex direction row. Does this make sense to everyone? Why we have done flex direction row? Yes or no? Just type in a repeat if you are unclear. I'll happily help it. I'll happily repeat it. Okay. And let's see now how impact of it looks like. Okay. So I'll stop the screen share. I'll again share the Chrome. Okay. So right now you can see it's one below the other. But if I refresh, the two divs that we had, now they are left and right. Is everyone able to see that? Yes or no? Repeat. Sure, sure. I'll repeat it. Repeat it. I'll repeat it. Don't worry. Okay, but are you able to, is everyone able to see the change? Okay. I'll just quickly repeat it. So I'm saying first thing that I did, I made it a flex box. That was clear. That is pretty self-explanatory, right? First property that I'm using for flexbox is flex direction. That is the that are the things that are inside that flex box. How do you want them to be placed, right? So what is inside this flex box? Inside this nav bar, there are two divs, PPA logo and profile part. Can you see that? There are two divs inside it. So how should I arrange it? Should I arrange it in a row, that is left to right, or should I arrange it as a column, that is top to bottom? So flex direction I have written row. Second option is column. Does that make sense? Got it? So with this row, those two divs now became side by side. Okay. Great. Is there any disadvantage of nested flex box? I don't think so. It's very commonly used. Don't need to worry about that. Okay. Second, as I said, was column. There are two others rarely used. One is row reverse. Row reverse says that it's still in form of a row, but in reverse order. That is, the thing that was second will come first. Let's just quickly see how it changes. So right now in form of row, this is first, this is second. When I say row reverse, it goes on the right. And now this is first, this is second. Can everyone see that? So basically row says start putting stuff from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Row reverse says start putting stuff from here. Column will say start putting stuff like this. Column reverse will say from bottom. Start putting stuff of the flex box, right? Is this making sense? Okay. Now, everyone okay so far? Then I'll move on. We'll introduce two more important properties. No? Okay, Aniket, what part is unclear? Let me know. I said no, right? There is no disadvantage as such. Everyone else? Is everything so far making sense? Yes, okay, great. So with this, now there are two other properties that I need to talk about, which is first one being justify content and second one being align content. Okay, so now listen carefully. This is important. Let's say it'll do center. So what is justify content? What is align content? So justify content tells us how do you want to space stuff in the direction in which that you have selected. So I'll just mention it here. So justify content works in the direction of your flex. So as an example, if I justify content to the center, right? If I justify it to the center, what will end up happening? In the row, it will become on the center side. So let's just quickly see how it looks now. Can you all see this? Yes or no? Everyone with me? So justify contents will always work in the direction of your flex, right? So if it's arranged in row, then it will be at the center of the row. If it's arranged in column, then it will be at the center of the column. Okay. Whereas align items work opposite. So if the flex direction is row, then it will be at the center of the height of that row. So I'll give a quick example for this. So let's increase the height of this container to a whole another value. Let's say now it is of 100 pixel. And so let's see how it looks. 1 second. Why is height not working? $500. Yeah. So 100, I think, was not like less than this. So when we do 500 pixel, then that means this div now has a height of 500. Can you all see that? Yes or no? Right. So height is huge. So everything else has been shifted down because this whole thing belongs to this navbar of height 500 pixel. Okay. But our two things are at the top, right? So if I want to center them here, even in this particular row, complete size, then I use align items. So align content, sorry. Let me just change that to align content center. Did not get saved. Yeah, so it's align item, sorry, not align content. So they got centered. Can you all see that? Yes or no? Okay, I'll repeat the quick points from here. There are two things, two properties, justify content and align items. Justify content works in the direction of the flex and align items works in the opposite direction of the flex to the flex. If it's row, this will work with row. If it's row, then this will work with column. Is the difference between the two making sense to all? Yes or no? Any doubt so far? Let me ask. What is the distinction between items and it's just naming, right? Karthike? It's just naming of the property. That's it. Nothing more than that. Okay. Cool. Let's quickly look at the other options for justify content. So obviously there was center. Then there is flex start and flex end. Flex start says you'll put it at the beginning. Flex end, as the name suggests, you'll put it at the end, right? Can everyone predict where the things will come if I make justify content as flex start and flex end? Yes, left and right, right? So at the beginning and at the extreme right, extreme end, right? So we have flex start, we have flex end, we have center. Apart from that, there are few space properties: space around, space between, and space evenly. Space evenly will evenly put all the different components that we have on the row. Space between will give the maximum space between the components, and space around will give equal space on both the sides and between. So we'll see all of them in action quickly and see how it looks. So let's start with space around. Okay, so we can see that what it has done is it has created one space on the left, one space on the right, and two spaces in the middle. Everyone, are you with me? So one space on the right, one space on the left, and two spaces here. Okay, so it's saying that for every component, there will be equal spacing on both the sides. If there were three, then it would have created one space on the left, one space on the right, and there will be three components having two spaces in the middle, right? So that is how it arranges. Okay, that is space around. If we do space between, then this left and right space will just go away. So let me just quickly change it to space between. Right. So as you see, there is a space in between them, but there is no space left on the left and right side. Okay, that is space between. Last is space evenly, which just evenly splits it. Okay, you can just try those out and work it out ahead from there. What is mentioned in the chat? Height property works with flex direction. So height and width are normally like height and width. So there are two properties, height and width. So height will work always like height, which is like the vertical distance, and width will work always like width, that is the horizontal distance, horizontal length of your div. Is it okay? So if we basically see this, everything would have been contracted to a very small portion because it's just 10 pixels, right? Okay. Align item or justify content works with the flex direction, right? Justify as the name suggests, like if you want to recall it, just try to remember your Microsoft Word, right? So justify always works row wise in case of row, like in the same direction. Align works opposite. Okay. Example of align items. We'll show it basically below. Don't worry about it. We'll cover everything. Okay. This one we had done align item center, right? So I'll just repeat what happened with align item center if you aren't care about it. So I'll comment it first and showcase. So if you see, if we say that align items is not made to center, then everything is at the top. As soon as I do align item center in the opposite direction, so it was arranged as a row in the opposite direction, that is column wise, whatever is the height of the div, it will be at the center of it. Is it okay? Okay. Great. Can you repeat flex once, as I was disconnected? And then I'll have to repeat everything again. That will take up a lot of time. But flex is essentially just a way of layouting stuff, right? Flex and grid. In case of flex, if you want to make anything as a flex box, you just say display flex. That's the only thing that I discussed, right? In that portion, if you were there after that. Okay. So I'll remove this height. So essentially what I have done is I have made the two components of the navbar, which is the logo and the other name, with space between. That is, I pushed them on the both ends. Okay. Now what do I want? So what other thing that I want here? What do you think? What else do I want? This time you guys help me make changes. What do I want with this PPA logo and name? Yeah, size we have corrected. I think I've removed height, right? So it will go up again. That's not an issue. Can I say I don't want them one below the other? So first we are doing layout. Forget about size, forget about spacing, forget about like that this image should be smaller, stuff like that. We don't need to care about that right now. Yeah, they should be adjacent, right? So what do I need to do? This PPA logo needs to be a flex, which is from left to right again. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So that is exactly what I've done. PPA logo is a flex with flex direction row. Similarly, profile part, which was your right side, the notification and the name, that is also flex with left to right. Are these two making sense? Yes or no? Okay, let's see them in action. Okay, they became left, right, left, right. Yes or no? Okay. Now we want some padding. Yeah, we'll add those padding. Don't worry. Yeah, I want to put some spacing. We'll do that. We'll do that. Don't worry. So actually, let's do it right now because it's okay. So what do we want? We want a little bit of space between these two, right? That is what we need. And a little bit space probably on the left also, right? And top and bottom, everything, everywhere. So for that, what we go for is, there are two things that can be possible: margin and padding, right? So it's very important to understand the difference between the two. Okay. So let's put our logo. So our image, I've not given any ID. Okay, I've given an ID, company logo. So I'll go to company logo and say, I need to add padding of, let's say, 2 pixel. Okay. We'll discuss about the difference between padding and margin. There are two things, margin and padding. They are used both for gap, right? So both margin and padding are used for gap, but there is slight difference. So what I'll do is I'll also add margin 5 pixel. Okay. And I'll try to showcase what difference it makes. Okay, a second. There was a question, right? What is the question? What's ID here? Okay. So to identify every div or every object of our HTML, we put an ID with it, right? And with that ID, we can put CSS to it, hash ID name CSS. And it has to be unique. Yes, it has to be unique. There are ways, if we want to put same thing on different stuff and we don't want to use different IDs, then there are ways to like not use ID but use something else. We'll discuss about that. But for right now, it's this, right? Okay. Sort of clear with the ID, meaning of ID. Sorry, Ankit was asking, right? No, Saurav was asking. Okay. Yeah, great. So as I was saying, padding and margin. Let's quickly look at this. Okay. So if you want to ever check your HTML page, very important point, there is a thing that you can do in your browser, which is right click and click on inspect. How many of you have ever done this with any website? Have you done this? Any website, you can literally go to any website, just right click and click on inspect, and it will open your HTML of it. Okay. And there is a pointer here with which you can select certain things. Okay. So observe carefully here. I'll just zoom. Can you see two different lines, green and orange? Yes or no? Everyone? Like around the logo, there is a this green line, and there is an orange line. Yes or no? Okay. And now read this. So what is the difference between margin and padding? Okay. Padding is like, okay, so let's say you have an object. Let's say you have this programming Pathshala. Now, this programming Pathshala is covered in a border. Okay. So if you want to increase the border, and add space within the border, then you use padding. So essentially, you are saying your house is within the border. Okay. Whereas margin is, you are saying that even outside the border, this much portion should be left empty. Is this diagram making sense? So padding is like internal distance. That is, the actual image inside the div would be having this much distance from its boundary. And margin is everything else which is outside this logo that should have this much difference. Okay. Can we say that between two objects is padding? No. Padding is between border and the object. Margin is between border and the outside or other object. Is it making sense? If you want to see it more clearly, then probably you can use a background color for it. I'll just quickly do that, and that will make much more sense. So let me do this, that I add a background color. Let's use something very bad so that it's visible. Okay, refresh it. Okay, so everything inside the border will have your background color. So if you see the orange portion which is there is your margin. It does not contain the background color because the boundary of your object has ended. You are saying from my boundary you should keep away by this much pixel. Whereas padding is inside the boundary. Is the difference making sense? Yes or no? So dark brown, where the dark brown ends, that is your boundary, right? That is still where your CSS applies. Margin is you are saying from my boundary, you should keep this much away. Okay. So this white space on the left of your brown becomes your margin. Whereas inside, if you see inside the brown, there is a small darkened portion. Like if I zoom it up, it's not possible to zoom it. But this particular portion, this is your padding. So padding is essentially internal distance from the border and margin is external distance from the border to other objects. When we say border, we refer to flex border or the image border. So we are referring to basically your ID's border or your object's border. So object which you have included in your HTML page, that object's border. Is it making sense? So here, what was the object that we had included? We are talking about company logo, which was this image, right? So essentially it's the image border. That image goes from like in this particular region only, right? So from the images border, the actual image would be inside by that much distance. That becomes your padding. And from its border, this much distance should other objects, which is P, should maintain. That will become your margin. Is the difference making sense to everyone? Subtle difference, but it can create problems when you actually implement it if you are not clear with the system difference. It will not, Satyam. Background color or any other property for that matter. Background color is one, but if you try to put any other property also here, that will never impact margin. Margin is outside your reach, right? Okay. Padding is inside, so that will be affected by whatever you put here. Others, is this making sense? Object is within the border and padding is around the object but inside border. Yes, right. What Ankit is saying is right. That is exactly what I mean here. Okay, I got very few yeses. Others, are you confused? I'll be happily repeating if it's unclear. Here? Okay. Great. So margin will share property of the page and not of object. I would not say page, but I would say parent. Ambuj. Got it? Okay. Yeah, of the parent. Right. So because with the discussion with Ambuj, we have introduced the term parent. I'll just explain it. So there is a concept of DOM tree that we encounter in HTML, right? DOM tree, DOM tree. How many of you have heard this term? Yeah, document object model is full form of DOM. But essentially, what is DOM tree? The complete page is structured as a tree. So how is it structured as a tree? We have the HTML tag. Inside that, there are two things, head and body, right? So they are the children of HTML. Then inside body, we have this one div, this second div. So these two divs are children of this body. So there is a parent-child relation that goes on throughout, right? Is this making sense? Okay. So when we are saying parent, so let's say what is the parent of this image? Yes, this div, PPA logo, right? What is the parent of PPA logo? Navbar. Okay. What is the parent of this profile name? This profile part, div, right? So on and so forth. So it's a simple parent-child relation that goes on, and this complete tree is created. So if you have studied a little bit about trees in DSA, then you would understand that how a tree looks. So essentially, this will actually create a tree, right? Okay. So great. I think we have covered margin. We have covered padding. We have also covered height and weight. Sorry, not weight, but width. Uh, Now what we'll do is I'll just quickly check any other important stuff that is left. So one other important stuff which is left is how to actually look at colors and how to actually interact with Figma. So let's quickly look at that portion. Okay. So as an example, can you all see this programming Pathshala written? And it has a different color, yes or no? Okay. So many of you would think this is purple, this is blue. I'll have to think what color is this to replicate, right? But you don't need to do that. If this is basically your Figma, which is kind of what is given by the designer to you. If you click on any component, then you'll be easily able to see the color here. It's hash value. Can everyone see this? Yes or no? So what I'll simply do is I'll just copy it and I'll say that your company name. So hash company name would have color as this. And then when we refresh the page, the color changes. Can everyone see that? Yes or no? So apart from layout, there is hardly almost anything that you need to do apart from copy pasting stuff, right? Even if you look at padding and margin, many a times it's available in Figma if it is designed correctly. Probably here it is not. But things like border radius, that okay, there is some radius around it that is given, right? Similarly, if you look here, this is also having a background, like the whole page is having this background color, right? So we need to just copy paste this and just paste it there, right? In Figma, we get CSS. Yes, we get CSS. But there are a few things that you should not take from it. For example, if you look at anything here, position here is always absolute, right? And it gives absolute width, height, left, top. Can you all see this? Yes or no? How many of you are aware of what is position absolute? What does it do? Are you aware of what this does? Position absolute and this left and top. So essentially what it is telling is from the start, go 196 pixel to the left, then go 245 pixel from the top, and there put your object, right? So it is saying absolute positioning. Absolute positioning means on the page, go this much pixel from here, this much pixel from here, and place your object there. Does that make sense? Yes or no? What absolute positioning does? Yes, no. Okay. What is the problem with this? Anyone who can think of a problem with absolute positioning? It's fine, right? Can you repeat it? Sure, I'll repeat it. So what I'm saying is, what does absolute positioning does? I am essentially saying that if you want to put, let's say, this education, then in the page, go this much from the left Like from the left side, go this much, then from this much from the top, and just place your object there, right? So it's like picking everything and putting it at exactly the right place. Yes or no? Does that make sense? Okay. It's like someone is pointing like exact finger that, okay, here, place your object, here, place your object for everything. Okay. Now, the problem with that is that it will not scale to different kinds of views. Like, for example, your laptop is 14-inch, someone else's laptop might be 11-inch laptop, someone else's laptop might be even huger, right? So, in different screens, this pixel sizes will be fixed and the pages will not scale to your screen. Am I making sense with this? Yes or no? And this has a specific term called as responsiveness. So what is responsiveness? Responsiveness means that your website should be having like good looking view in almost all the different screen sizes and all the different devices. So if your website only looks correct or only looks beautiful, you can say, only on your page, then it will not work as an actual working website. Is everyone able to understand this? By absolute positioning is wrong. Yes or no? Everyone? Others? I got very few S's. Just type in a repeat if you want me to repeat it. Okay. So when we use layout using some framework like Flexbox, or let's say by using relative is also not 100% correct, because again you are fixing pixels, right? That relative to this much pixel on the left, this much pixel on the right. So again, it will not be completely responsive. Okay. But if we use frameworks like Flex or Grid, then they automatically scale. For example, if in this page only, okay. So for example, in this page only, if I try to reduce it, it is showing some kind of responsiveness at least, right? But it is moving program Pathshala down. There are a few other things that we can do. I'm not sure why it is hiding this particular domain. Yeah, now it's fine. So when you try to reduce it, it's automatically changing the positioning of these two. Can you see that? Like if I'm reducing the page size or I'm increasing it. Otherwise, if it would have been absolute, then when you reduce the screen size, it might have gone off the page, right? Or even if it would have been relative to this, let's say go 100 pixel on the right and then put this, then also when it changes, it would have had fixed positioning and it would not change based on how the screen size changes, right? Is everyone able to understand that? So better to go for some frameworks like Flex or Grid rather than writing at least this absolute positioning, or layout try to avoid while copying from here, right? Rest other things you can copy: font weight, letter spacing, all these stuff, color. This is all fair game. Just copy paste this. But layout you need to do yourself first. Second problem comes with width, height, and even with font size. And we'll see what the problem is. Okay. So let's say for this image, let's try to resize it. Let's try to make it a little bit small and see how it goes, right? Or let's see it here only. If I try to just shrink it, can you see that it's cutting off? Yes or no? Can you all see this? Why is it happening? Because its width has been made fixed, right? Yes or no? let's do it once more in practice. So what I'll do is I'll take this image, which is the profile picture. And I will already do width equal to, let's say, 400 pixel, and height also I will take 400 pixel for now. I fixed it. Okay. So it has this size, but now the size is fixed. Like if I try to like shrink the page, the image will start getting cut off. Yes or no? Does that make sense? What is happening? So because the height and width is fixed, it is not changing based upon the size of the page. Okay. So there are a few different categories of measurements that we can use while specifying height and width, and we'll look at them. So apart from width and height, we can also specify width and height in terms of percentage. So as an example, width could be written as 20%, or 20% will be very small. Let's take 50%. And here 50%. So you might ask, 50% of what? What do you think? Yes. What percentage should it be of? Yes, parent, right? So when we specify in terms of percent, it takes percentage of the parent. Okay. What is the parent of this? This div. But this div is on the complete page, right? So all of these are under the complete page, which is having 100% space. Actually, it will be 50% of the page also for now. But if it would have been a smaller div, then it would have not been. So we can see that it covers 50% of the page. And now if we try to reduce it, it is reducing in terms of width also, right? Similarly, if we try to reduce the height, it will reduce in terms of height. Can everyone see the difference? Yes or no? It will always be 50% of screen in this case, but generally parent. If I have reduced the parent also, then it will be 50% of even that. Okay. Is that making sense to everyone? Percentage size. Others, no. Just type in a repeat or no if it's not. So we have discussed two ways: pixel and percentage, right? But sometimes calculating these percentages could be very complex when there are too many divisions, one inside the other, right? For example, if later on I try to reduce the size of this parent to 20%, and I forget that this was 50%, this was put as 50%, then it's prone to some kind of bugs, right? So there is one way where we can directly link it with the viewport. Okay, so I'll introduce a term called as viewport. Viewport is essentially your complete visible screen in a way, right? So basically there are two more parameters. Just like we had pixel, we have view width and view height, in which we can specify stuff. So view width is like what percentage of complete width are we using of the screen, and view height is what percentage of complete height we are using, right? So instead of percentage of the parent, we go for screens percentages using view width and view height. Is this making sense to everyone? Yes or no? So for example, if I do here view width and view height, I'll come to REM also. That's another one. How to decide when and which unit to use. Generally, we stick to one. We don't go ahead and do a lot of stuff. For padding, etc., we stick to pixel because even if sometimes things change here and there, it will go well, right? So we can use any unit, but then we should be consistent, right? Yes, yes. You need to be very, very consistent. You can't merge up different units and go ahead from there. Okay. So yeah, as I discussed, even 50 view width, 50 view height is still 50% of the page, right? 50% of whatever is visible. Okay. One more thing that regularly happens, which unit is most efficient to use? It's not like that. Yeah. So there was one more unit that I wanted to talk about, which is REM. REM is mostly used for fonts. REM says that we have a default font size for the page, and relative to that, we put the font size of different stuff. So majorly we use this for fonts. Yeah, so if you want to use REM, it's majorly for fonts, right? To make their size dynamic, yes. So font size dynamic. Okay, cool. So that's about REM. So there are 4 units essentially: pixel, percentage, view width, view height, that is based on viewport, and REM, right? Majorly for fonts. Viewport, view height, and view width majorly you will use for height width. Similarly, percentage also you will generally use for height and width. Pixel you use for padding and margin, because they are mostly going to remain the same throughout whatever your page looks like. Okay, so those are the different 4 units that we can use. Cool. So that explains this. Can you showcase REM? I can. But like you can try it on your own also. It's not a like. I'll show with font. I think that might be much better. So what I'll do next is probably introduce fonts and fonts family, and then go ahead and do REM, right? Okay. So as you can see, there is this font family Poppins. Can you all see that? Funky font, right? That we want to use here. Okay. Let's try to copy paste this and see if we are able to get this Poppins or not. So let's say we have this. Let me do it for about me for now. About me heading. Let me go for font family and try to find Poppins. Can you see it's not there? Yes or no? And most of the time it will not be there. There are very few fonts that are readily, I think, available. Yeah, Times New Roman, all these stuff, right? The common ones are only available. Rest are not. So what you need to do is you need to install the fonts separately. Okay. So what do? You go to google.com and you search for the TTF file for Poppins font. You will get Google font and you download it from here. Okay. And it will basically download your TTF file. You can copy paste it and just create a font family out of it. So this I have written. So what you need to do, you need to say font family, you need to put its name. So we are trying to create Poppins, and you need to provide the URL where you can find its TTF file. So what are TTF files? TTF files store how each letter is shaped in that particular font. Okay. So you download the TTF file, you put its link here, and then it will create the font. I don't know if I have the TTF file as of now. Let me just quickly check if I have it. Let me take the Poppins black.ttf and put it where? put it inside HTML, right? Okay. So we have this PDF file. Do we have it? Yeah. So we have this TTF file. So I can just copy paste its path and just put it here. Okay. So now I have this family and I can directly use it here. Is this making sense to everyone? So you need to create this font face. You need to create this font, and then you can just use this font anywhere. For this, you need to download this TTF file and import it. Okay. So let's see how the look and feel change. You might not like, if you are a non-designer like me, you might not even understand what change has occurred. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty clear that something has drastically changed, right? So my TTF file might not be right. I just copied some Poppins black instead of Poppins. But if you download the correct name, then you'll be able to find the correct look and feel similar to what is written here. Okay. Cool. That's how you introduce fonts. And similarly, you have font size. So let's quickly go ahead and try to put font size here. Okay. So first I'll showcase what happens if I try to put it as view width, right? So let's say I'm trying to put it as 20 view width as the font size. Okay, it's very huge. I'll probably reduce it. I'll say 5 view width then. Okay. And now you'll see that as soon as I reduce, can you see that it is getting smaller? Yes or no? Like the remaining things are remaining, like remaining fonts are not changing, but this about me is getting smaller, right? So one drawback that you face with view width for being used as font is that with view width, it will get very small, like it will almost become unreadable in different mobiles. So as an example, if I go for any mobile, so here, by the way, you can select look and feel of different mobiles also. So right now it's 5, it's still working, but if I reduce it even further, after some time, it might not actually be very visible also. Okay. So in those cases, sometimes it's better to go for REM, right? And sometimes you have to write specific media queries for it. So last thing that I wanted to introduce is media queries. I mean, if you are aware of this, media queries. Yes or no? Okay. So what is media query? Sometimes you will not actually be able to make everything perfect in all the screens at the same time. So sometimes for mobile screens, you might want to put some specific things. For example, let's say I don't want to show navbar if it's mobile view. Okay. I don't want to show the navbar at all if it's, let's say, laptop view. Okay. So what I can say is I can say @media min width 500 pixel. So if my screen's width is more than 500 pixel, then apply these properties. Okay. So essentially what I mean is with media queries, I tell that apply these properties only if this condition is satisfied. That is, width of the screen is at least 500 pixel. Does this make sense to everyone? So it's like a if of CSS, that apply this only if the screen is satisfying this property. Yes or no, everyone? Okay. So what should be the impact of this? In case of laptop view, the navbar should not be displayed at all, right? So let's try to see that has actually happened. Okay. Can you see that the navbar is gone? The whole top portion is gone. Yes or no? I've done display none. Display none means you'll not display it, right? I did not talk about it, but just like display flex, it's like not showing that thing. So this is removed, right? Okay, until it hits 500 pixels, right? So for example, if I make it responsive and I try to reduce it, so as soon as I hit 500, can you see that? Yes or no? So beyond 500, it's not visible. Then as soon as it goes below 500, it becomes visible. So this is like an if of your CSS that apply these properties only when this particular thing satisfies. Okay. Cool. So that covers almost everything important in CSS. If you want, I can just showcase that REM part. But there is really nothing to showcase there, actually. So it's relative to the main size. So it's 3 times the default. Okay. That is the only meaning of REM. And you can just search for it also. So as soon as the screen size changes, it still remains the same because default screen size for the main screen is still in terms of REM. Okay. Will you share these codes? I think we'll have the recording. Plus, you need to have to do certain assignments after this. So I'll just showcase all of them that you need to do. First thing that you need to do is there is a website called Flexbox Froggy. How many of you have heard of this? Okay, some of you have. Okay, great. So basically this gives like this has around 24 levels and this gives a very good practice of your layout, right? For example, if I want to shift this log here, what should it be? I should say justify content, flex send, right? Everyone, and I'll click next and it will work. It will show me the next one. Okay. So these kind of simple, like this is justify content center. So first few levels will be very simple, but later on it will have some complex thing to do as well. So you can just play around with this and it will give a very good practice for at least layout stuff, right? So do complete this. Second thing that you can do is I'll share this design, this page's design. Try to make as much as possible out of it, right? So this could be your first mini project or mini assignment where you create your own portfolio page, right? Using HTML and CSS. Are the 2 things clear? First thing, practice layout using Flexbox Proxy. Second thing, make a small portfolio website with your details, right? And then you can showcase it. It has to be responsive as well, yeah. So I'll share both laptop view and mobile view for it, right? Single page. So try to make both of them with media queries as well. Okay. And yeah, we'll start with that. Then probably by next week, you will also get your major projects like that you need to do till like the course completion. So that major project and the groups that will be discussed probably in the Sunday class. If not on Sunday, then next Tuesday, right? So let's meet on Sunday. That is 2 days after. Repeat the assignment. 2 things that you need to do. First thing, Flexbox Froggy practice. 24 levels are there. It will take hardly 2 hours at max if you search and all. Second thing, I'll also basically post it on Classroom, so don't need to worry. Second thing is that you need to create a static page similar to your profile, which should be like a small portfolio project for your own self. Okay. Are the 2 things clear? Okay. Yeah. So please change the class timings. Actually, it was I think that I do not have any control over them. You can just probably ping one of the other person, right? And it will be fixed. Yeah. Also, I think I am also mostly available at this time, so that might be the reason. But yeah, we can think over it. React course starts when? So we'll cover JavaScript next. So probably on Sunday. If not on Sunday, then on probably Tuesday, we'll start with JavaScript. Bootstrap, SaaS. I'll introduce Bootstrap, but there is nothing to be like as such lectured about in that, right? I would rather prefer lectures to be more practical in nature and something with where there is something to understand at least, right? So yeah. Yes, backend will do in Node.js. So don't need to worry. Just let's continue with it, and we'll continue with it. So post read, that is what I'm saying. The two things are post assignment / read, whichever you want to go ahead with, right? Okay, great. Let's stop here then. Let's meet on Sunday. If the projects are finalized by then. So on Sunday, I would like to see some kind of progress from everyone. As you know, Sunday is mostly a day where we will not have regular teaching, but mostly like stuff related to your project. So I would like to at least see some projects or some basic layout for portfolio pages, and we'll probably assign everything on Sunday, right? So let's meet on Sunday. I'll most probably be there. Yeah. Anubhya is here. Anubhya.
Hi everybody. How was the class? अंकित द ग्रेट. तुम्हारा सरनेम द ग्रेट है? ये सब बचपना करना छोड़ो ना. अंकित द ग्रेट 8th क्लास में ढूंढना पड़ते, अब तो कॉलेज में आ गए. गुड, ग्रेट. तो यार आई थिंक वी आर स्टार्टिंग राइट नाउ, पर विद इन अ वीक और टू we'll be planning to give all of you projects, and those projects will be in teams, so that will require all of you to collaborate, do it really nicely, and before that it will require you to learn whatever you are being taught really nicely. Otherwise projects will become too difficult for all of you. So basically make sure that you revise, you practice, because dev mein thoda it is more about how it is not like DSA. Dev is more like more you practice, more you get it. So basically make sure that you put your you get your hands dirty on it. And when are you all graduating? What year you are supposed to graduate? 2024. So that is 2 years from now, right? Good. Thank God you are saved. So the world is in going into recession, and it is expected that recession will last for at least 24 months usually. So if that happens, there will be hiring getting freezed all over, and the way people are getting hired left, right, and center in tech, that will not happen anymore. That is what is expected. So if that happens, it is good. It is a good idea that all of you prepare accordingly. So become great at what you do. That is the way. Recession is that economy is going through a slowdown. Economy is crashing, so there will be little money flowing. Little money flowing means investors will be putting little money in companies. Means companies will have to freeze hiring and have to save the burn that they are having, burn of cash, and that means lesser jobs. And since it is coming from, it has started in the US already, so all the US based companies are already getting hit. So for an example, Facebook has done a hiring freeze for this entire year in US. Facebook is no longer hiring. So that is just an example. So you understand it, right? So basically, if you are graduating in 2024, it should be all right by then. But yeah, prepare nicely. Good time to prepare. Good time to prepare. Cool then. Good night, everybody. Bye bye.